You're in a unique position to answer the question on a lot of people's minds right now, which is, how did he do this?
Well, they pulled this off with their signature ground game. This is something that started back in Iowa, and it's different than anything we had seen before. The Trump campaign had really deputized people that were their super fans. These were Trump loyalists. These were people that were volunteers that essentially were tasked with going door to door within their communities. And if they reached 10 voters and were able to get them to turn out for Trump, they were given a reward, whether that be a T-shirt, whether that be a hat. The next tier that they would then, if they got 24 voters, they would get expedited entry into a rally. If they got 45 voters, they would get a specific hat, a Trump team captain hat. I would see those when I would go to separate rallies all across the country, these signature white hats. So by doing that, they were really able to tap into local communities using people they know were Trump faithful voters. And by that, they were able to get to those low propensity voters, people that wouldn't typically turn out in a normal election. But
I don't think that was like the door knocking pyramid scheme wasn't the most successful method of turnout. I think the successful method of turnout stemmed from that was a part of it for sure, but he did this in 2016 as well. He just went to like every. Remember something I told you when we were looking at Donald Trump trying to win like the Amish vote, which was really funny. Scott Presler like might be going to jail, but one thing that I told you back then was he wants to win. He will literally go to he will go anywhere if he thinks he can get 10 votes. All right. That was why, as the New York Times is reporting, he even did this. Both campaigns are digging through the troves of data to find these crucial Americans. They both think many are younger, black, or Latino. The Harris team is also eyeing white college-educated women. The last-ditch hunt. This article showed that Donald Trump went to a Palestinian restaurant specifically because they found out that any sort of mention of Israel-Palestine that didn't immediately automatically favor Israel was able to captivate a shit ton of undecideds. Not just Arabs, by the way, just undecideds in general. Tom Suozzi, who scraped by Tuesday, Democrats have to stop pandering to the far left. I don't want to discriminate against anybody, but I don't think biological boys should be playing in girls' sports. He added, Democrats aren't saying that, and they should be. Yeah, no, that's the resounding message here. Dude, there are no more minorities left to shit on, brother. At that point, there is like no one left. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's your takeaway from this, is the fucking trans people thing. Like I'm sorry, dude. They are no different than the unhinged Republicans who look at the unhinged Republicans. By the way, I told this to my trans community already that they were going to do this inevitably. When you don't want to take a look at the larger problem within the party, when you don't want to question your ideological commitment to just refusing to even recognize material solutions to people's problems in the form of progressive economic policy, populist economic policy, if you are choosing to officially not look at that at all, then you don't have any avenues left. They're just going down the carousel. They're literally going off one marginalized group after the other. They're like, okay, let's cast aside immigrants. Okay, fuck them. YOLO. We did that this election. Wasn't enough. Must be the trans people. Fuck them too. It's so stupid. When you have incredibly popular governors in red states that are unequivocally pro-trans rights that just say, no, this shit sucks. Don't even bring it up. I don't care. They're your neighbors. They're our children too. They're God's children. Fuck you. Stay out of their own damn business. Mind your business. Who's this Nicholas Fandos? What do you mean? He's a New York Times political correspondent for New York Times Metro. He's interviewing Tom Suozzi. I believe he's the Long Island guy. One thing that I also have to say here, one thing that I have to remind people here is that there is genuinely a commitment from the Democratic Party that they are duped by Republican messaging. They believe it too. Just like we talked about the demographics of destiny narratives, right? Which are inherently racist, no matter who is pushing it. They also believed in the lies that the Republicans were committed to. For example, when they chose Tim Walz and the Republicans were like, aha, you fucked up big time. Nobody wants a loony like Tim Walz, the radical socialist. Only person with a positive approval rating in the race, by the way. J.D. Vance, underwater. Donald Trump, underwater. Kamala Harris, underwater. Tim Walz, the only person with a positive approval rating in the race. They believe their own lies. The Republicans do believe their own lies. They do legitimately think that, yeah, you're right. A popular progressive guy is going to be viewed as a radical loony by the broader electorate. That's what they think. Meanwhile, that's not how the electorate views it at all. But it doesn't matter because the Democrats hear that and they also believe it. So then they tell Tim Walz to shut the up. The consultant class needs to be completely ripped apart and rebuilt. They are far too invested in certain narratives that they believe. It is wild that they believe children's sport is a top concern for voters. I know they see one messaging poll, but they did that shit with undocumented immigrants too. They don't look at the second thing that's polled in any of those messaging polls. That's what's so frustrating about it. They see the top line. They see the headline. The headline says 60% of Americans want mass deportation. They go, oh my God, we got to do mass deportation. They never look at the second line right underneath it that says 64% of Americans want conditional amnesty for all migrants. They never look at that. They look at 60% of Americans think that trans women should not participate in sports alongside cis women, right? They never look at the second line in that goddamn same exact poll that says 64% of Americans believe trans people are disproportionately targeted. There's a lot of bigotry towards trans people. They never do that. So when they don't look at the second line on those polls, and they only respond to the first line, they end up normalizing this position amongst their own base. They start scaring their base into believing that, yeah, we got to go more right wing. We got to go more right wing. It's so stupid. You're playing on enemy territory for no reason. Launch a counterattack instead of going into your enemy's waters and trying to beat them at their own game. You'll never win there. Like the media is like kind of celebratory of the situation. Like it almost feels like there is an air of excitement that like, oh, Trump is back, ratings are back, we're doing it. Like we're gonna do the damn thing. We're gonna get the ratings. But yeah. You have these people with the wrong positions. I don't know how you see this and think the answer is she didn't run left enough. Let me address that real quick, actually. This is important for people to understand. When you look at this and you think, oh my God, the broader electorate has shifted right, you are not understanding that there are tens of millions of voters that voted in the prior election for the Democratic Party that is just simply sitting this one out. They felt like they were written off. They just didn't vote. The campaign didn't reach them. The campaign abandoned them. Sometimes openly said, we don't want you. We want Liz Cheney. We want the suburbs. You have to understand. That's why it looks this way. This is simply an abject failure of the Democratic Party. That's all this shows. I kind of regret this point. My point is not really that she shouldn't have gone left per se, is that this country is big and crazy and the answers are not as simple as being more left or more right. No, it is the answer. The answer is address the problems that people are experiencing. Then they'll come out and vote for you. Yeah, this can be very misleading. Yusuf Munayr, poli-sci PhD, says, the shift isn't about Trump growing his totals as much as the fact that some 15 million people who voted for Biden in 2020 didn't vote this time. About 155 million votes were cast in 2020, 137 million in 2024. Where did they go and why? That's it. And even in the Biden camp, even in the Biden race, the problem was that Biden should have had a larger victory, but he also did not go far enough in terms of activating people, in terms of motivating people. I remember I covered it, and he barely fucking eked out a victory with 42,000 votes overall. I said, if the base doesn't hold out in Philadelphia, in the urban areas, young voters, black voters, brown voters from across the spectrum, if they do not hold out, then if the base falls, because she made no outward communication to these constituents, she just took them for granted. She was like, oh, we have it locked down, she will lose. And she did. And that's precisely what happened. So if I can see it and I'm a fucking idiot, then how the fuck can the Democrats not see it? Are they this blinded? I go back and forth on this because sometimes I think they are just like beholden to corporate interests and whatnot. And then other times I talk to actual campaign staff, right? I talk to people that work on, I talk to people that work in the DC bubble. And then I realize rather, is that no, they are just blinded. I think that they're just simply blinded. It's not all just ideological purity and loyalty to like third wave neoliberalism across the board. It's not just about being completely captured by corporate interests. I think that plays a role, but that plays a role in the bubble. Philadelphia turnout down 10% from 2020. Detroit is down, but only 3%, so that saves Slotkin. Keela Lacey says, Trump didn't win Pennsylvania, Harris lost it. The consensus from voters and organizers I talked to this week is clear. Democrats have abandoned working class voters, and it's costing them their political lives. It's class war. The focus on minority support for Trump ignores Dems leaving voters on the table. When black people are showing up for Dems, it isn't with unbridled support and unquestioning support. Maurice from Working Families Party said, Maurice Mo Mitchell, progressives and independents are the ones courting those voters, not Dems. I want more black voters asking questions in the political parties, recognizing that there is a larger and larger component of the black electorate that is persuadable. I talked about the warning signs about this. The more we move away, because that's just the passage of time, from the last time that the Democratic Party actually expended social and political capital to defend black people, the more younger black people are open to be convinced by the Republican Party. And it's even then, it's going to be by slim margins. But the fact that it even exists is specifically because the Democrats are not offering anything. And I don't mean offering something purely on racial boundaries, by the way. The civil rights movement is one thing. But even like offering things to young black men that you could offer to young men all across America and to young women as well. This requires you to have universality in mind when you legislate. If you don't have universality in mind when you're pushing a legislative agenda, you are going to fall short of what is necessary. If you constantly try to target specific voter bases on racial boundaries, one whole day of crying is crazy. I'm not crying at all. This is the expected outcome. This is the outcome that the Democrats wanted to happen, basically. I don't know why you keep saying I've been, I don't know why people come in here and say, like, you're crying, you're crying, you're crying. But I guess I don't fault people for saying that because they are hallucinating a different reality. They're hallucinating a reality in which, like, the Republican Party is going to be helpful for them, for example. And that's pretty funny to me because this motherfucker is not going to help you, like, unless I get deported for, saying mean things about Israel. He's probably going to be more helpful to me than you.